Equalities watchdog has ruled schools will no longer be breaking the law if they refuse to refer to children by their preferred gender. So the Equality and Human Rights Commission guidance previously stated misgendering trans pupils would be discrimination. But now the watchdog has removed that section from its guidance entirely. This is a very interesting development, actually, because this is the first time they've said this. So joining me now is diversity and inclusion facilitator Katy Jon Went. Katy, what is your interpretation of this change in wording here? Because essentially schools could now legally refuse if a biological boy said they were a girl, please can you call me this, even if the parents said, can you call my son by his preferred gender, preferred name, they could refuse.
Well, it's a kind of a removal of kind of the proactive advice. And it's not necessarily saying we should go the other way and do absolute denial. And it kind of removes some of what we might say is the worst excesses of unquestioning acceptance. But does it go too far the other way? No, I think it moves us to a neutral position. It allows schools to make their own decisions and not get caught up in have we broken the law or not. The equality law still remains. There is still gender reassignment as a protected category, which is not specified in law in terms of the actual age. But there are plenty of decent and humane and respectful ways a teacher or someone in a school can respect an individual pupil and actually completely ignore gender. For example, by referring to them by their name and not using pronouns at all. But to actually kind of completely ignore, for example, a particularly parental-backed kind of social gender change in school would be ludicrous, because not only would the parents be supporting it, that most of their classmates, given the generation and inclusion that classmates are around, they'd be supporting it. If the teacher's the only one kind of not supporting it, they're going to look foolish. The kid could play up into class and literally refuse to answer the question unless they are addressed in a particular way. So it's going to frustrate education and it's going to frustrate classroom behaviour. I think it moves us back to a position of common sense, potentially, if that is acted upon.
Just very quickly, Katy, so you think schools should be able to decide on an individual basis how they treat children with gender dysphoria, rather than government mandated?
Actually, I do. And in fact, that's how prisons used to do it many years ago. And I had a lot of interaction with prisons before they had actual instructions which told them to do it a particular way, which then people erred on one particular way out of caution and created a lot of situations. I think giving people a common sense ability to err on what works best for the child, for education, in collusion with parents, gives them a greater freedom rather than a, you must do this or you mustn't do that. And I think a degree of common sense in those kind of issues is a much better way of doing it. But I do absolutely agree with the freedom now that they actually have to actually say, look, you know, changing rooms and sports should be biologically sex-based. But in terms of like behavior and respect in the classroom, that's about humanity and just creating an environment in which people want to learn.
Yeah, I think it's extremely difficult, because then you've also got to protect people who do have gender-critical views and they may not wish to use a child's preferred pronouns. So there may be quite a lot of, there may be some conflict in schools, I imagine.
But we allow teachers of religion to kind of have different religious beliefs to different religious people. It's the same
That's
thing.
true. That's true. I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut it short there. But thank you very much indeed for your time, Katy Jon Went. Always lovely to talk to you, diversity and inclusion facilitator.